Hey, it's Charles. Thanks again for tuning in to 30 to 30. This is day 2 or 29 days left until I turn 30. Oh, that's weird as it still sinks in. Oh my gosh. Let's jump right in. Okay. I had to learn this lesson so many times throughout my 20s. Know what you don't. Oftentimes we hear this in another phrase, it's best to know what you don't know. Or the hardest thing to know is what you don't know. There's different variations of it. I'll give you some examples from my life. There was this one time where I was hanging out with a group of friends and they were kind of talking some smack on this one girl we knew who pretended to know something about everything. For example, I had a friend who loved to go skiing. And so one day when they were talking, she's like, oh, what do you like to do for fun? And he's like, oh, I love skiing. And she's like, oh my gosh, I love skiing too. I own like 10 different pairs of skis. And he's like, really? What brand are they? And she started kind of like fumbling over her words and like, oh, I don't remember, it's been a while, ha ha ha, like this, that, or the other. And so I had a couple friends telling me that this girl was like that. And so I had to test whether my friends were right about this girl. So one time when we were hanging out, she was asking me about me and she said, oh, what type of music do you like? And I knew this kind of niche electronic genre that was kind of newer, and I was curious if she would try and, take the bait on that. So I was like, oh, I love electronic music. And she's like, oh my gosh, me too. I love that stuff. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, what's one of your favorite bands? And I made up the name of a band. Portfolio Pleasantries or something like that, right? And it even sounded made up, okay? And she's like, oh my gosh, I love them so much. I listen to them all the time. And I was like, oh no. What she failed to do was to know what she did not know. She did not know that someone was testing her, or she did not know about that genre of music. And if she had known those things, she would have been able to not make a fool of herself. Anyway, so that's one experience of when I wasn't the fool. And what's so funny is that happened really early in my 20s. And for the next decade, even though I saw that example, I did not learn that lesson. Soon after that, I was working with some people, and basically our manager supervisor was getting on the case of one of my coworkers, right? And this coworker had a lot of really negative allegations against him. And I knew this guy pretty well. I was trying to back him up to my boss, and I was like, okay, listen, I know these things look really bad, but I know this guy. He wouldn't do these certain things. I know that it looks bad, but I think it's taken out of context. And I really, really stuck my neck out for this guy. And then my boss dropped some knowledge on me so hard that was super incriminating. I didn't know that had happened. And he's like, well, if you knew that he had done this certain thing, you wouldn't be backing him up like you are. And I was like, wait, did that really happen? And my boss was like, yeah, it did. So before you start questioning my decisions, you need to know the truth. And so then I was like, oh no. So I felt super embarrassed, super ashamed. I felt betrayed by my buddy. It was rough. I wish that I knew that I didn't know everything or the assumption that I didn't know everything that was going on with that coworker, as well as I wish I knew what I didn't know that my boss knew and different things like that. Because gosh, even when I think about it now, I still cringe. Okay. Oh man. Another example. So I went on spring break to Arizona where I was hanging out with another one of my buddies, and my buddy came up to me. He's like, dude, Mace, I've got this really cool thing that I'm doing with stock trading with Robinhood, and there's this biotech stock that's gonna pop. It's gonna go from $3 to like $20. I was like, okay, man, let's do it. And in his defense, he did warn me. He's like, biotech stocks are super unpredictable. You never really know. But just so you know, I've got this amount of money in there too. Like, I'm a big believer in this thing. And so I'm like, okay, man, I'm in. Let's do it. So what you are looking at right now, this chart, that was the day. It was March 16th-ish that I invested what little money we had in this stock, believing in all the hype and the drug that was being created by this biotech stock. And let me tell you guys, I did not know what I did not know. I did not know that you should not trust what people say on the internet about stocks. I did not know that biotech stocks could do what eventually happened with this thing. And I mean, literally, like, there was so much I didn't know that if I knew what I didn't know, if I knew that I didn't know all that stuff, there's no way I would have invested. I would have done way more research. But I didn't know what I didn't know. And I paid the price big time. As you can see right here, 66 cents, guys. This stock tanked. Ouch! That one hurt. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Started learning my lesson. Okay, I need to get better about knowing what I don't know. So in late 2013, Typhoon Haiyan devastated Tacloban or Leyte in the Philippines. Okay, this was the largest hurricane typhoon that had ever made landfall. The wind speeds were insane. There was a 15-foot wall of water. And for the first like 6 days, nobody was doing anything. The Philippines government wasn't doing anything. The American government wasn't doing anything to help. There was no infrastructure. There was no communications. So there's a lot of reasons why nothing was really happening to help those people. But I felt a very strong compulsion to go and do something about it. So in 48 hours, me and a few other friends raised about $10,000 to go and travel over there and begin helping with the relief efforts. Going in, I created this very thorough plan. I was going to do this, I was going to arrive here, I had a timeline and a schedule, but I had learned my lesson. I knew that there was so much I didn't know about this situation that I was going to be completely open-minded to how to adjust and adapt to evolving circumstances. One of the best things that I didn't know was going to happen was I was going to meet an incredible disaster relief team called ZEDRU. And ZEDRU was pivotal to our ability to be able to make it to the islands that needed the most help because they had connections with the Navy. However, by combining our two teams together, we were able to accomplish a ton of good. And if I would have gone in with this locked mindset of like, okay, we're going to do this, just like that, there's no way we would have met this team. There's no way we would have ever made it onto the island and had the impact that we had. And one of the best examples of knowing what you don't know and just an overall badass dude, my guy, Kyle Reyes. I was his intern for a year at Utah Valley University because we had tons of subcommittee meetings. There was like 8 or 9 different subcommittees that him and I would go to. I was basically kind of like his administrative assistant. So I'd like print stuff out and I would prepare different documents and I would take minutes and I would send out reports to people and updates and whatnot to those committees. And Kyle Reyes, even though he was the leader of all of these committees in essence, he always admitted when he didn't know the answer to something. Even when he came to the table with information that he believed was true, he always prefaced it with, now I know this might not be exactly what the case is, and so I need feedback from you, but from what the data is saying, this is what we're looking at. As a leader, really invited the committee members to say, well, actually from the faculty position, this is what we're experiencing, which is contrary to the data. And Kyle was able to say like, oh, he knew that he didn't necessarily know that beforehand. And so he was very easily able to take that feedback and adopt his plan or what the changing situation was based on that new input and feedback. It always impressed me how Kyle was never so egotistical or big-headed or, I'm in this important office, I know what I'm talking about, to say, I don't know. He didn't pretend to be this all-knowing, omnipotent leader of these subcommittees or this university and so forth. He was always humble, and it made him more powerful. His not appearing to know everything actually made him appear more knowledgeable. And it really showed me firsthand, week in, week out, of how important and how powerful knowing what you don't know is, and also being unafraid to convey that to people, even if they're looking to you for leadership and guidance. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for this video. I was taught so hard so many times. I seriously thought about like 50 other stories I could share about different times where I didn't know what I should have not known and how I just ate shit because of it, and it was horrible. And I'm sure I will continue to learn it because I can sometimes be prideful and egotistical and you know, get my, I have this, that, and the other. That makes me smart and knowing what I'm talking about. I just see so clearly now throughout my 20s the value of admitting that you don't know. And knowing that you don't know, boy, that is such a powerful, emotionally intelligent trait and attribute that I've learned from great leaders and the terrible examples and pain that I've gone through with my own experiences. I just hope I don't have to keep learning it in my 30s. Anyway, catch you guys later. See you tomorrow.